Sharing is Caring by Itslivybear. Chapter 10. Everything is fine, but not for Izuku. Facing Uraraka was far more daunting than it should be, considering most people considered her to be soft. She was going to become a rescue hero, so a lot of people in class assumed she was fragile. They saw her bubbly pink astronaut costume and underestimated her, saying she was just a weak girl. The sports festival disillusioned everyone of that notion. In the last battle, she had beaten Soji, considered a strong powerhouse, a tall boy with a wide range and a good grasp on hand-to-hand. In comparison, Uraraka was small, with a short reach but a quirk that was almost a one-hit KO if you didn't have air mobility. This would be a fight. With a whole extra match before his own, Hitoshi was more than happy to sit with his boyfriend in their class to watch the two 1A kids duke it out. Gravity Girl was formidable, and Greeny looked to contain a lot of strength in his tiny, tiny body. Hitoshi was almost jealous, since his muscle mass was pretty abysmal. He was lean and lanky, compact muscle, but he would never beef up to be able to solidify and effortlessly lift people taller and probably heavier than him, like Greeny could. I mean, the kid had lifted Vine Girl and all her vines. That had to add a lot of weight, right? Almost scary. He wasn't really paying attention to the fight. No matter who won, they'd have to get through another person before fighting him. If he even got that far. And he was good at getting people to talk. It was a skill. And not even the Class 1A kids would be able to resist for long. Not that they knew his quirk or how it worked. He was also very good at misleading people. He idly watched the fight, the careful dodging, as they both needed to get close to win, but that meant letting the opponent get too close. Then Greeny flicked a finger, and the wind was immense. When it hit the stands, there was a whisper of power that was achingly familiar. Hitoshi sat ramrod straight and immediately looked at Neto. Shocked blue eyes looked back, and suddenly both of them were far more invested in this fight. Greeny, the board said his name was Midoriya Izuku, would occasionally flick a finger to try and get Gravity Girl out from the pressure, and his fingers turned purple. Was he breaking them? Hitoshi knew he was getting a lesser version of the quirk, but the amount of power it took to break someone's finger just from the backlash? They were barely getting any power from the bond, if this was any indication. Of course, there was also if this was indeed their lost third soulmate, which wasn't confirmed until he used one of their quirks. Did he not know that it was them? He must have used brainwashing and copy before. They were pretty distinct. And Neto at least wasn't hiding what he could do. Hitoshi wanted him to win, and then the next match too, so he had an excuse to talk to him. Brainwashing never really worked on Neto. Midoriya had broken most of his fingers when Gravity Girl ducked around him and tapped him just as he let off another blast. He flew out of the ring. Ureko Choco is the winner! Hitoshi just stared. Neto knew Toshi wasn't going to be doing anything for a while other than fighting since his match was next, so he decided to take matters in his own hands. Midoriya would be with Recovery Girl, no doubt, so it was time to do some reconnaissance. He peeked into the 1A section. Hey! The few people there instantly turned to him, and their faces were a mix of confusion, recognition, wariness, and anger. He held up his hands in surrender, knowing he looked suspicious. Not here to cause trouble, just have a question. Besides, I'm out of the festival anyway. The class president, Yayarozu, took the initiative. I can't promise we'll answer, she said slowly, but we will consider the question at the very least. What is it? That kid from last round, Midoriya. Has he mentioned anything about soulmates? She blinked and frowned. I don't see why you need to know, but... Well, he told us he doesn't have a soulmate. A invisible girl hummed. Yep, he's like me. Super adamant about it too. Why? Neto blinked and straightened. Just curious, asking for a friend. That may or may not be Hitoshi, but it doesn't matter. Thanks anyway. He turned and left, back to his own section. Did that mean Midoriya wasn't the third? Or if he was, why did he lie? And seemed so sure. Did he think he was better than them? Neto felt a surge of anger before stamping it down. No, he just got his quirk, probably a stress manifestation, or they would have noticed. He wasn't like the rest of people with strong quirks, so quick to look down on them and name them villainous. Maybe he didn't want to be bonded to the villain kid and the kid that relies on others being strong. His heart panged, ignoring the fact that Setsuna had just lost to the Ice Prince, and he frowned again. Hopefully not. Hopefully. He didn't know, but something about this wasn't right, and he would be getting to the bottom of it. Hitoshi looked at the bird-headed boy and ran a hand through his hair. He was still distracted for sure, thinking back to Greenie, Midoriya, and how he just wanted this damn tournament to be over so he could... No, he couldn't corner the kid. There was probably trauma there. He looked so scared all of the time, and that might just make things worse. Start! Time to focus. He felt the borrowed quirks shift under his skin. No telling what brainwashing would do with a sentient shadow bird quirk around, so time to use every tool at his disposal, including the strength. Izuku stared at the television screen in the infirmary in horror. Multiple quirks. The purple-haired boy was using multiple quirks. Quirks of other students. He said something, too quiet to hear over the crowd, and Tokoyami responded, then went blank. Izuku recognized that blankness. He knew that quirk, both of them. Then the boy, Shinzo Hitoshi, punched hard and Tokoyami went flying. He knew that quirk too. And he also knew he had to do everything in his power to stay away from Shinzo. He couldn't figure it out. They couldn't. Hitoshi would have thought that out of all of them, Blasty would be easy to make talk. But the bastard just had a smirk and an annoying glint in his eye. Nothing could touch him, but explosions could be a long distance. His skin burned as he lost consciousness. Izuku watched as Bakugo took his first-place medal, snarling all the while. Todoroki hadn't used his fire, something that irked the blonde, but Bakugo still won. Todoroki in second, and Uraraka and Shinzo third. He gave a weak smile to Uraraka before ducking into the crowd. He had to get home and away from searching eyes. He made eye contact with Bakugo before leaving fully, and the red eyes glinted with glee and malice. Izuku shuddered and turned away. Time to play keep away. Aiwazawa Shota raised an eyebrow at the two Wumbi students who approached him. Can you not find Vlad? They didn't flinch, but Shinzo bit his lip and looked away. Monoma just took on a glint to his eye and stepped forward, giving Shinzo's hand a squeeze. Sir, we need your help. He blinked slowly. Why me specifically? Because it involves one of your students. A surefire way to catch his attention, Shota would admit. He narrowed his eyes. Which student? Shinzo looked up at that, and Shota got a good read on the kid based on the emotions in his eyes. Admiration, determination, nervousness, and frustration in equal measures. An interesting combination. The tired-looking boy, was the one who muttered the name. Midoriya Izuku raised her head. Sir, we're concerned. Interesting. Why are you concerned about someone who, as far as I know, you have never spoken to and barely seen? Because, Monoma said hotly, his quirk just manifested, and late manifestations are only caused by a few things, like trauma and near-death experiences. This was news. He narrowed his eyes. Why and how long would you know that his quirk just manifested? It would explain a few things, like his abysmal control, but surely he would have been told. The blonde grimaced. Because Hitoshi and I are soulmates, and on the day of the entrance exam, we got a third quirk. A strength-based, energizing quirk. Oh. Oh. Aiwazawa Shota, Eraserhead, and teacher of 1A, straightened imperceptibly and gestured to some seats nearby. Let's have a talk.